Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? Grab your coffee, maybe some tea, and let's get into it. So today I'm going to be talking about something serious, and I know you guys are used to my humor and me joking around a lot, all right? But this has actually been weighing on my mind for quite some time. And, you know, we have spoken a little bit on, you know, after a collapse, you know, would we survive and things like that, okay? Now, you don't have to be a prepper or a person of the prepared mind to know that not all disasters are created equal. Just look at the past couple of years, okay, with the pandemic. You know, it impacted the entire globe. And in comparison, other like smaller disasters might have had like a huge impact locally, but they were limited to smaller areas, right? Like the war in the Ukraine, it impacted only a small percentage of the world's population, but it captured the attention of almost everyone, right? How could it not, right? And as a possible portent of what is to come, right? Now, while wars are, you know, they're awful, okay? And I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that, okay? Perhaps even more destruction can be caused by a total collapse of civilization. And I know that there's a lot of people that they prepare for that reason. And there are many such scenarios that actually exist, including war, nuclear war, EMP, even a CME, right? And granted, we shouldn't assume that any and every major disaster will result in a collapse of society. That would be irrational thinking, okay? But we should be aware of the possibility. Even if, you know, enough people perish, you know, when there are enough people that do perish, you know, in critical positions, things will stop working, right? And I mean, you know, some of those things could include like our government and government services like police, fire, rescue. And when that happens, we could possibly start to see society collapse. Like, look at what happened, like what defund the police and stuff like that. You had entire departments just walking off the job. Now, perhaps even more importantly, we see law and order collapse, right? Like, I had just heard about, there was a department here in Florida, a very small department. I think there was only like 10 guys or something like that as police officers in that county. And they all walked off the job. I can't remember what the hell it was for. Oh, I'm sorry. It was some political mumbo jumbo. Don't ask me what it was for because I really don't remember. But it was just like a couple of weeks ago. I know, buddy. I know. But regardless of what happens to the government in any of these scenarios, they all have one thing in common. The collapse of an infrastructure and supply chain that we are all so dependent on. Like, we wouldn't have clean water piped directly to our homes, electric power, flip of a switch, right? Thousands of products that we use every single day. And if we're, like talking about like only like a few days, most people would be okay. Like the average American family has what, maybe 3 to 5 days worth of food in their house, right? I mean, if we're lucky, maybe 2 weeks worth of food in their house. And maybe a case to maybe 3 cases of water. Our homes, if it was cold out, it would hold maybe some heat to keep them going for a day or two in the freezing cold. But it's like, then what? The truth is, modern society has literally been trained to be so dependent on our infrastructure and supply chain. It's not like anyone has intentionally trained us this way. And, it's not like, oh, here's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not a conspiracy theory, but we were literally trained on like technology and conveniences and our infrastructure and the ability to just run to the store and get whatever you need, whatever you can afford. I got this recipe and I'm missing this. Shite, honey, can you run to the store and go pick up blah, blah, blah. Right? How many times before you started prepping, how many times did you do that? I can raise my hand and say, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times, right? And we don't know like any other system. And like the younger we are, like especially younger generations, like my son's age, he's 24, the more dependent we are on that system. And as part of that training, the average person no longer knows how to do the basic survival tasks. They don't know where to find water, how to purify it, where to find food other than like grocery store, restaurant, how to cook food without power, even how to start a fire. I mean, unless, you were a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or military or, you know what I mean? Even if they were given the tools that our ancestors used before everything became electrified, they wouldn't even know how to use them. A lot of us are just lucky enough to have known our grandparents, our great-grandparents, or even, if we're much older, our parents who grew up during the Great Depression or what have you. And we learned by watching them how they survived. And we listened to the stories that they told. Now, this leaves anyone who's not a prepper very vulnerable to a collapse of society. And most don't even know what their survival priorities are, let alone how to come up with them on their own. A lot of us who are people of the prepared mind, whether you're just starting or even if you're 6 months or a year in, you're still trying to get your priorities straight. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. And if you ask the average person on the street, like say you're at the outdoor mall or whatever, like, where you got the different stores and you could just walk in and out, what those priorities are, they'll probably tell you, I got my cell phone and my keys and TikTok, Snapchat, selfie, right? Credit card. Not even understanding what the hell it is that you're even talking about. Now, one or two might come up with food, clothing, shelter without understanding, the hell did I just say? Other than that, they heard that maybe somewhere else, favorite sci-fi movie, whatever. And while they will all come up with, to like a recognition of those priorities, they won't happen until they become desperate. How many times have I said desperate people, desperate measures, desperate times? They're going to be, you understand, you know where I'm going with this. All right? Shite. I personally, I feel that the homeless community, those are the real survivalists, man. They know. They've been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the tattoo. But the first thing that will cause people to perish will be lack of food, lack of water. There will be a lack of medicine too, lack of cleanliness, because, you get a cut, an infection, and regardless, of your environment, if that's not a clean environment, and regardless of how much medication you take, dirt gets in that, or a bug gets in that. All right? Cleanliness, man, too. All right? More than 131 million Americans take prescription meds for chronic illnesses. You got a heart condition? I do. Okay. You have epilepsy? I do. What about diabetics? Okay. This is where I'm going. Okay. Now, while some of these people, like me, like you, could actually survive just fine without some of these medications, there are many who cannot, like epileptic, diabetic, cancer, HIV/AIDS. Okay. These are the things you gotta think. Now, even those who can survive without them for a while, like blood pressure, right? That's just an example, because I have high blood pressure, would end up likely in serious trouble due to a combination of underlying health and stress of the situations and stuff like that. Now, I know a lot of people saying, diet and exercise. In a societal collapse, and all you've got is canned goods that have so many preservatives and sodium in it, guess what? That's going to add to your problems of your high cholesterol and your high blood pressure. So don't tell me diet and exercise. Alright? So shush. Now, the next thing that we would encounter is obviously water. Water will become a problem quickly as people run out of the bottles that they saved up. Okay, most will look around for them, trying to find whatever they can. But many will drink that water first without purifying it, either because they don't know how, or they don't have the tools, or whatever. So that's why, a lot of us, we invest in the Berkeys, or we invest in the Life Straws, or the purifying tablets, or, 8 drops of bleach per 1 gallon of water, that type of thing, right? Because that's how our brains work. For others, you would never think about doing something like that, right? Now, sadly, there is bad advice out there telling people that they can filter their water through a t-shirt. I'll just take a t-shirt off. No. Don't listen. Stop. That sort of advice will get you killed. Don't listen. It's thundering out. It's raining. Now, the t-shirt will remove sediment, but that's it. It's not going to, do anything about removing microscopic pathogens and, what actually has to be removed. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, people will get dysentery from drinking that unpurified water and, get dehydration and they die. Now, those that don't drink water, they can find, they'll be much better off. But the human body is largely made up of water. You know this, okay? It's trapped in each and every cell. We can only live like 3 to 5 days without water. If our bodies don't receive sufficient water, those cells, they start dying off. And as that process cascades, it can lead to the shutdown of the organs and systems, and then, you perish, all right? Now, it would seem like the next likely problem we face would be starvation. But it might not be. While food is extremely important, we can actually survive, a long time without it. I think it's like 30 days or something like that. But, you're going to be not just hungry, you're going to be hangry, along with like no energy, loss of mental clarity. And that's just after like the first 2 weeks, but you won't be like in any danger of like dying of like starvation or anything like that quickly. But most of us carry around reserves like that are stored in your body, in your body's fat. Let me just say that for that to even be like an issue. But I think the next issue will be all those people out there who are hungry. You know what I mean? The ones who take hunger in their bellies and follow for that reason. Because they're not of the prepared mind. The people who will start doing whatever they can to get food because they didn't look at the signs, they didn't listen to people like me and Jason and Pinball, you know what I mean? Because they said that'll never happen. Our government will never let that happen. But they'll never let that happen. And guess what? They did. Even if it means crossing the line and committing crimes. But before starvation can even set in, those people will be out there with whatever weapons, even if they're makeshift, whatever they can get their hands on, and doing whatever they have to do in order to get food. And some of them will even be even more motivated because they got children that are hungry. And there's nothing that can make a parent more desperate than when their child is hungry and crying because of it. And many will die at the hands of those people before they end up reaching their own demise. And that will, it'll come at the hands of someone who's better armed and better prepared than they are. But, diseases will follow. They always follow in the wake of a disaster. I already talked about, contaminated water, right? But there will be a wave of people who die because of disease that's spread through society, quite possibly through contaminated water supply. One of the oldest known disease spreaders is water that becomes contaminant by people who are either already infected by disease, or they go to the bathroom in the water and people drink out of it because they don't realize, And without proper sewage service, it's human waste, man, And one of the most toxic substances on the face of the earth is to contaminate groundwater, to spread person to person. You remember how much propaganda there was about washing your hands during the pandemic, and it was not false information. Diseases you know, even deadly ones, they spread quickly via person-to-person contact, touch, you know. Even there isn't adequate water for cleaning, it spreads through them faster. But then, you know, there will be people dying of starvation. But this is why we prep. This is why we do what we do. Right on. I mean, it's hard to say just how quickly this will all start, as there's, you know, there's many factors involved, and national obesity rate that helps slow down the starvation. But fat cells, they don't store nutrients, just energy. People can be fat and still die of starvation, because sometimes it's not their fault that they're fat, because, you know, either it's medications that make you fat or whatever the case may be. And there are too many people who think that they can live off the land, hunting, fishing, gathering. But if you never learned how to do it, it's not, you know. But the reality is, no matter how good you are at those things, there will be too many people trying to survive that way. It won't take long for the game to play out and the fish to become scarce, and when that happens, most of the people won't have a plan B, because they don't have the prepared mind like we do. And the starvation wave will probably start in about a month or so, and will continue for the better part of a year. By then, those who survive will have to figure out how to grow their own food. Like I've been encouraging all of you guys to start your freedom gardens, either through community effort or on your own, or, you know, we have enough food, water, firewood to survive. Even if you don't have enough of the thrive, you know. From there, I mean, things, you'll start to improve from the second year being better than the first, and the third being better than the second, you know. And this is what prepping is all about. Becoming self-sufficient, regardless of how much our government tries to stop us. Regardless. Don't listen. Just keep going. So we don't need to rely on the infrastructure and the supply chain. That's the only true way you could be sure you're going to survive all this shite. But these sorts of scenarios actually go far beyond stockpiling food and water, as they're talking about events that'll destroy the very fabric of our nation. It's not just survival for 6 months or survival for a year. It's not wanting for someone to come rescue us. You know, there's no more 911, you know. It's being able to take care of ourselves for the rest of our lives. And I don't care how big of a stockpile you build. It won't feed you for the rest of your life. So, getting to this point means, like I said, my goal is to become a homesteader. So, I think that's every prepper's goal, to become a homesteader. Now, whether that's a homestead out in the country, an urban homestead, you know, suburbia, commune-style homestead on property that you purchased, whatever. Homesteading is all about self-sufficiency, and building that homestead is like the only insurance you can possibly get, you know. But this is why we prep. This is why I say keep prepping, fear less, keep going, don't stop, stay positive. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I love you. All right, stay safe, head on a swivel, stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less.